Hello, and welcome to Grid Operator Assessment Training from Inisys. Today, we are going to talk about the problem statement that led to the creation of the Grid Operator Assessment Training. We'll talk about the concept of experiential learning. I will show you Grid Operator Assessment Training from Inisys and give you a demo of it. And then we'll talk about results and conclusions. So in the electrical grid, we have operators who are getting older, they're starting to retire, and they're taking a lot of that institutional knowledge with them. So there's the potential for a void of information sharing in this space. Within the grid itself, it's becoming increasingly complex. We have new technologies coming on board like renewable energy, such as wind and solar. We have constant cyber threats from abroad. We have a rise of electric vehicles, so there are more and more cars plugging into the grid, and this really requires specialized skills for this new generation of grid operators that are coming on board. Unfortunately, there's also a lack of interest, so fewer young people are choosing grid operations as a career, which is unfortunate because it's a very high-paying job, it's a really rewarding job, so we need to address that as well. Experiential learning prepares trainees for situations that they may not have seen before because they understand why we use procedures and not just how to do them. So by focusing on mental models and giving them strategies to address these complex systems, they can face challenges that they have not seen before, remediate them, uh, and keep our grid safe. The grid is a very dynamic environment itself. So things will come up, and these grid operators need to be able to solve problems themselves. They need to be able to adapt to a constantly changing environment. And this type of training has been proven effective in study after study. It's used by the Harvard Business School because it is so effective. And then our grid operations assessment training, it applies situated cognition. So underneath the training itself is a simulation of the actual grid, what it looks like, how it functions, what they see actually within the course of their jobs. It uses adaptive coaching. So their performance is assessed based on what they do within the simulation itself. And then we can coach them based on those actions that they took. It's very interactive. We use Socratic dialogue. So we pose a question, we allow the trainee to come to their own conclusion, and then we allow them to compare their answer to what an expert would have done. And in doing so, we really are able to focus our attention. Instead of a classroom environment with one teacher, many students, it really is one-on-one. It is the trainee interacting with the simulation and we being able to record those things and show them exactly what they should have done. So with that, this is the simulation and the assessment training itself. The trainee has dropped into the simulation and they can see that there are a number of different alarms that are going off. The primary problems are in two stations, Leopard and Cowboy. So with that, then they drop into, over on the right-hand side, the geographical map of the scenario. They can see the Leopard station and the Cowboy stations. They can see that there are problems there. So they drop into Leopard. They look at the equipment diagram and they can see exactly where the overloads are in red. Most of the readings are green, but we do have multiple red environments that they have to address. So first, they want to let their shift supervisor know this. They communicate with the shift supervisor. We give them a number of different options of what message they should send. They click that, and then they can move on with the simulation. Here in the generator control, then they have the option to set the megawatt output either increase or decrease. In this case, we're about to show they actually decrease the wattage, which is a mistake. And in doing so, we put up an interrupt. We let them know that the action made the overload worse. And instead of remediating the problem, they're actually increasing the severity. So we put that interrupt there, and then the trainee would go on into the megawatt control and increase it all the way to maximum capacity to start to alleviate the situation at the leopard station. Once they're done with the simulation, they've taken all the actions that we expect them to do within it. They will click done and they receive the after action review coaching dialog box. Here across the top, they can see all the different actions that they took, all the ones that are relevant to the simulation. And then we post questions. So this question, you looked at the one line for leopard, but not cobweb. Experienced operators would look at all stations that had alarms, etc. Then we give them an opportunity to respond. They enter their response, they submit it, and then they see the expert answer. So they see exactly what an expert would have done. And we present it to them in a text version and then also with imagery. So we can show diagrams that explain exactly why the situation arose, how to remediate it, what an expert would do. And then we give them the opportunity to assess themselves. Was their answer similar to what an expert would have done, or was it very different? And then in doing so, we rated the trainees who took the pilot program, and overwhelmingly it resonated with them. They scored it extremely highly. Many gave it a 10. The average was 9. We collected comments from them. Overwhelmingly, they said that they see it as very relevant to what they do on a daily basis. And many of them said that the kinds of things, the kind of scenarios that they encountered in the training will go forward with them into their jobs. So just in conclusion, this younger generation going into this, we need to shift our thinking around how we train them. We've got to be adaptive to these situations to keep them engaged. And it really helps them learn new skills and maintain a safe and reliable grade. I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference.